Hello, and welcome to our today's live stream. I hope you can hear me and see me well. Let me know that in the comments and say hi in the chat as you join in. And let's jump straight into our today's topic because I don't want any delays. And that is top 10 tools for cold outreach. And as always, we will start with understanding what is cold outreach and what are some of the channels you may use for that, and we'll move gradually from one topic to another. Okay, hi everyone joining the chat, and let us start with our slides. So let me move to the topic. So before we start actually discussing the tools which you might use and why you should use them for each specific stage of your cold outreach, I want you to ask yourself some of the questions, and these are the questions you might answer straight in the chat. I'd appreciate that. I'd appreciate you making this chat alive. But most importantly, I would like you to answer those questions, yourself, to consider yourself for the future in case you haven't yet started with your outreach campaigns. And the first question is, of course, what's your company size? Obviously, you know the answer, but why I want you to ask yourself this question is because techniques that work for, say, 50 plus employees size companies are inadequate for companies size 1 to 10, right? Because for larger companies, it makes sense to automate things, to build those complicated, effective sales funnels, and to actually invest into your sales efforts and not only in your time. But if you have a small business and if your budget is really low and you can't afford yourself to build those complicated funnels, it makes more sense for you to use completely different techniques. And here I would advise you to be a sniper and not a machine gunner. Okay. And the next question I want you to ask, and this is an important one, what are your business growth plans? And why this is important? Because for different people and different business owners, it might mean, different things. And there is a rule of 3, 7, and 10. And I have read about this rule in let me show you, in this book, Tools of Titans. And it says that as soon as you grow 3 times, then 7 times, and then 10 times, each time you have to change your processes inside your company and the approaches you take, in different directions: financial, sales efforts, operations, accounting, all of this stuff. So as soon as you grow up to 3, 7, and 10, you have to change your approaches. But you might have different goals, and that's why you should ask yourself, what are your business growth plans? You might have none, and that is absolutely okay. If you have no growth plans, it's not really okay, but it might work for you for the time being. There might be reasons behind your decision. For example, there are personal reasons and you can't attend to your business, or, war or whatever. So you have no plans of growing, you have plans of just saving your business. That is entirely different story. Or you might have some tiny plans of, say, growing your income by 2 in the next year, or you have some ambitious plan to grow your business by 10 in the next year, right? So depending on your business growth plans, your strategy will be different. And the next question flows from this one, and that is, who does sales in your company? Obviously, in companies sizes 1 to 10, mostly it's CEO who does all the sales and business development efforts. But if you are in a company 50 plus or 100 plus, or how many other numbers you can put in there, plus, obviously, you need a sales team behind any of your campaigns. And actually, But CEO has only as much time to dedicate. If you have a small business, CEO has only as much time to dedicate to sales efforts, because he or she might obviously has other things to attend to: finances, strategy, taxes, everything, project management, whatever. In IT business, those might be 100 other roles, right? So you might give it a better thought of how you delegate your tasks here. And I mean, then the next question is how your sales are typically done inside your company, whether you rely more on outbound, inbound, referrals, or you do no sales. And don't be surprised here, because I've known examples with 100 employees company where there were zero sales, no sales department in place, and zero sales actually, and even CEO himself didn't do any sales efforts. And this company operated on a pure outstaff basis. And I mean, that was a couple of lucky deals when CEO managed to secure those contracts, and those contracts ran into a lifelong business, right? But those are rare exceptions, and typically this is not a typical scenario, and you have to do sales, right? So this is the reason you have to ask yourself, how are sales typically done in your company? And if there are like no sales, you have to start somewhere. It's just you may not jump straight into those complicated sales funnels, and you might not have to use all those tools all at once, right? So the next question is, what's your budget for sales? And this is before you start any impulse purchases. There is some typo in the slide, but you got my idea. So before you start in any impulse purchasing and trying one tool after another, you have to define your budget. And by budget, I mean yearly budget, not the budget for the next month, how much money you can afford to waste on sales efforts in the course of the next month. No, because any cold outreach campaign, brings results in approximately 6 months. In IT business, IT outsourcing business, because I can talk in this regard, IT outsourcing / outstaffing company. Typically, it's 5 to 6 months. In rare occasions, if you're really lucky, you get your first deal in 3 months. But it makes sense to plan your cold outreach for at least 6 months. So this is important, so that you ask yourself how much budget you can afford to dedicate to sales efforts alone on a yearly basis in the course of the next year. And based on this budget, you then understand what approach you can afford yourself to make, right? So the next question is obvious, and that is, just give me a second. I can't somehow. Okay. So the next question is what tools you currently use. And obviously, if you use none, you might be wanting to be really careful with what you purchase at the first tool. And go back. And the last question I want you to ask, what you can do to enhance your sales after this live stream based on your budget. Now, before I proceed with the slides, hi Leonid, hi Harry, hi Alexandra, great to see you guys in the chat. Okay, let me proceed with the slides. Right. So, and please share everything you're comfortable with sharing in the chat. We'll approach each and every of your situation after a few slides. And I'll move to the next one. And that is, if you haven't seen my previous, I can't somehow see my slides, but I hope that you can actually see them. Okay, so if you missed my previous live stream about budgeting, sales budgeting on Upwork, please, after this live stream, go and watch. It's not long, it's like 10 minutes long, and out of those 10 minutes, you only need to watch like 3 minutes, where I show you the document where you can calculate your sales budget in Upwork. So if you haven't seen that, please do, because Upwork sales budgeting is similar to any sales channel budgeting. It's just I'm sharing there really briefly because that live stream was unannounced, unplanned, but it gives you an idea how it is done. Okay, let's move on to the next one, and that is, a second, I can't really see my slide. So what's cold outreach? I won't stop here much, but for those of you who are just starting out with their sales efforts, there are two approaches to sales: inbound and outbound. And like in 2 words, to put it really short, inbound leads are those who come to you through your website form, who reach out to you basically. And outbound leads are those to whom you reach out to in your cold emails, cold messaging, whatever. So inbound leads that are coming to you through your website, through your social media, through whatever PR activities you have on the web. And outbound are leads to whom you reach out yourself. And obviously those are cold leads because they are not expecting you to knock at their doors and say, hey, I'm John and I'm selling XYZ services. So inbound versus outbound. So there are a lot of discussion which is better. Inbound takes more time to set up and quite an effort, but outbound also requires the same amount of effort, and that is a constant battle, which is better, inbound versus outbound. It's completely, up to the owners, and we won't stop here much because we are talking today about cold outreach, outbound sales, people we reach out to without them wanting us to. Okay, get it. Let's move on to the next slide. And that is how not to do cold outreach, because I want to approach several mistakes that people do. And I commit myself, I commit a couple of mistakes from this list myself from time to time when I'm really lazy with my approach. So let's approach them and try to do better. So the first one is hire jack of all trades for a lead generator or salesperson or whoever you hire to help you with your sales efforts. And that might be the entire sales team, but none of them has really any set qualification. You might hire, say, one person who would do data research, campaign launch, nurture link leads, communication, calls, account management, project management, whatever. So please don't commit this mistake. If you hire a person, so if you feel that it's time to hire a person or the entire sales department, you first have to assign certain roles and responsibilities for that person. Please don't make them do all at once, because I've seen this mistake happening. Thankfully not, in my company, but I've seen this mistake happening, and the results are less than inspiring. You want some certainty in the person who you're hiring, right? And assign them a certain set of responsibilities. This way you will be able to track their results and to manage them better, at least. So the next one is sending generic messages for all of your leads. And sometimes gun machine approach works good. For some, if you have really good sales messages, if you have either marketing person who writes for you, or you're really good with writing yourself, and sometimes you get 1 or 2 leads who respond back to you, but sending generic messages for all just won't work. You either put labels on your leads if you use automated systems and send different sales sequences to them, or you use a completely customized approach where you have certain templates, but you reach out to those people personally and just few the technology stack or depending on your sales template that is, and you customize this message for each and every of your lead. So generic messages, I don't have, unfortunately, any successful examples of it working. Really working. And we've tried different approaches with this one. It just doesn't work. The next one is not using multiple channels. And this is a topic for an entirely different discussion. It takes, a lot of time to talk about marketing efforts here, because I mean, in a nutshell, you have to nurture your leads, and you may want to reach out to them not only via email and LinkedIn, and maybe sending them some personalized video message. So multiple channels, maybe some social media, other social media that they are using. So using multiple channels to nurture your leads and to to boost your accountability in their eyes is essential. So if you're looking to build complicated automated system, this is a must-have. Another one is spray and pray approach. And who's guilty here? Sometimes when, like I said, when I'm really lazy, I'm using this approach. It's just I'm using really customized messages, and typically they work, but I know who I am spraying to and where I am spraying to. But I mean, not having a strategy is a bad thing anyways. So spray and pray approach rarely works. And this leads us to another mistake you might be making, and that is not having ICP, ideal customer profile. For example, you're selling web development services. And I mean, web development is such a broad, it's not even a niche, it's such a broad direction that you can actually find clients everywhere, but it doesn't mean that you have to fire at each and every lead you see on LinkedIn or in the database of your leads or wherever. You have to draw your ideal customer profile, and that includes the position, the years in the company, the size of the company, the industry, the geography. I mean, there are a lot of things to that, and until you define your ideal customer profile, I wouldn't advise you to even start with your sales efforts, not yourself, not delegating that to your salesperson or sales department or whoever. So the next one is obvious, and that is no strategy and no plan. Do I have to explain here? If you have no strategy, if you have no plan, no budgeting, it may just lead you to wasting money and burning your money spent on sales tools and building those complicated channels. Of course, that leads you to stressing out because sales are unpredictable. And if you are not doing this right, and if you're not getting any results, of course, this will stress you out. And of course, you will be strongly frustrated. And in such a mood, you will see even less sales, right? Who can agree here? Okay, so what is wrong with me? Okay, so the next mistake you might be making is waiting for the budget to scale your sales efforts and not planning it in ahead, because obviously you have to start with your sales budget and move like backwards. So we have this amount of money, what we can do to reach our sales goals. So work backwards, starting with your sales budget. Okay, up to this point, if you have any questions, I mean, as I talk, because I can talk for quite a long time. So if you have any questions, you just throw them in the chat and I'll approach them either immediately or after we're done with our slides. So second. Okay, so how to do the cold outreach instead. And I'll just briefly touch this one, because again, this is not the topic of our today's live stream, but in a nutshell, so that you actually understand. So the first thing you have to have is have a strategy. And that is your value proposition of your service offering, to understand how you will be building your leads demand generation system. What is your sales strategy? Again, that entirely depends on what size of a business you are. For companies like Harry in the chat here told us, around 150 plus people, this is an entirely different story when it's just you and several team members, tech people in your team, right? It's entirely different story. A complicated, smart sales automation system for one, and sniper approach for others. So this strategy, so your strategy entirely depends on your size and on your situation in the market. So the next one is you should have a team, because when you decide that you need to start your sales efforts, you have to think who will be doing those sales efforts. Because obviously, like I've been already telling you, if you are the CEO and if you're the only person who does sales in your company, you only have as much time to dedicate to sales as, say, 2 hours per day at best, right? So 2 hours per day at the very best to write to someone or to reach out to someone. It isn't even enough to think out your sales strategy and to map out your goals. So it isn't really even enough for that. And when it comes to, say, lead generation, it is a full-time position in itself. It requires a lot of time. It's not really, it doesn't require any superb efforts, in terms of mapping out, thinking, strategic thinking. No, it's a tedious job, typically, and something you can 100% to delegate or outsource to someone else. So if you decide that it's time for you to start some sales efforts, building some sales department in your company, then you should better think about who you should hire and how many people you should hire. And that will be based on your budget, and again, on the size of your company, and on the channels that you will pick up as your main channels, right? So you should be hiring and onboarding new people, whether it's one person or two people, but starting sales efforts just by yourself, you wouldn't be able to dedicate enough time to see any dashing results, right? So of course, before you hire people, you should think about compensation packages, motivation system, and how you will be managing those people. And of course, to that end, that is important. Sorry, there's something. Okay. And of course, to that end, you will have to understand how to do sales overall, because I've seen examples when CEO decided that it's time to start a sales department in the company, but knowing zero about how sales are done in the modern world, and how to approach it and who to hire. He committed all of the mistakes we've just listed. And you don't want to commit those mistakes, right? So the next thing you want to do is to start implementing tools and analytics from day one. And of course, we've been discussing this topic time and over again on this channel, in live streams and videos, even in my shorts, because you should be measuring the efforts of your sales team, right? And to that end, you need CRM, automation, templates, goals and reports, etc., etc. And I think that was the masterclass we've had with my patrons, how to build a sales department from scratch in your company. But the main idea was, it's good for you to try selling your services yourself before you start hiring new people to your team. Because when you get your hands dirty with sales, and when you get a grasp, when you get understanding how sales are done, how people are typically responding, which messages work best, which don't, then you will be able to outline the responsibilities for each new salesperson in your team and tell them what to do, how to do. Of course, accept their opinion as well, but what you've been doing, how it worked, what didn't. And of course, some sort of a report system is needed, is required. You want to know how many, you want to know your rates, the conversion rate, the response rates, the conversion rates. And to that end, you need to know how many emails were sent per day, how many responses they got, etc., etc. So you might want to start doing sales efforts yourself, and then outsource it or delegate it to someone else. Okay, Alexandra asks, spray and pray approach, it's more like spam, right? Yes, right, you can call it spam. Sometimes it might be like a smart spam, where you outline your ICP, ideal customer profile, you filter your leads and send some really specialized messages to those leads, but without actually nurturing them, without building prior communication with them, and without nurturing them with some other multiple channels, other social media, posts on social media, and maybe email. So yeah, it's basically spamming people, you may call it. Okay, so the questions you want to ask yourself again before you start building a system, that is how you collect leads, how you process them, how will you nurture them if you haven't built this system yet? How will you respond to their responses? And this is, again, this is the reason I want you to start the sales efforts yourself before you delegate those sales responsibilities to someone else, before you hire your first salesperson to your team. And of course, how do you close? Those are important questions, and you should be asking yourself these questions before you start building a system. And now that you've asked yourself and given yourself some honest answers, now it's time to build some system, and now it's time to start delegating. And before we jump to the tools, to the long promised tools, let me share. I mean, I've forgotten, I don't know why I've forgotten to create another slide. It got lost somewhere. Just a second, I'll share my screen. So I'm really sorry for this picture. I've just drawn it 5 minutes before the live stream in Paint. You haven't heard that. Okay, so basically that's how the simplest system, cold outreach system, looks like, and that is when you collect leads, either with Sales Navigator and using Zoom Info, as you can see it. Okay, you can see it. And Zoom Info, Crunchbase with Apollo, or some databases that I wouldn't recommend you using, but they exist. I had to put them as another means of collecting leads. And the next step would be to put them into a CRM. CRM might be the one according to your choosing. I mean, we've been using Pipedrive and HubSpot and a couple of others, but I mean, there are dozens, millions of those CRMs, sales CRMs on the market. You can choose any that works for you. And of course, in that CRM, you should be labeling your leads. Of course, you should be clearing out the data because there will be some duplicate leads there. Is that the correct word? Okay. There will be some emails that don't work, etc., etc. So after you clear out the data and put some labels on your leads, then it's time to start your outbound campaigns. I mean, I guess you can see both on my slide and my second screen. So watch wherever you want to. So then it's time to launch your outbound campaigns. And again, that's a topic for another discussion, but typically it's recommended that you use multi-channel approach. For example, approaching your clients both on LinkedIn and via emails, and maybe doing some calls. Like when I've been head of business development department, we've done only 2 of those. We reached out via emails and also reached out to those same leads on LinkedIn. And only occasionally when we felt that this is a really high quality lead and we don't want to miss them, then we did some calls, but those were rare exceptions, so I wouldn't call that a system. That was an exception from the system. And of course, dealing with responses, I mean, that is my personal opinion. Dealing with responses should be 100% individual. So it's not like you can use some sort of highly customized messages that you use when the lead is responding, because I get this quite often. I'm the lead myself and people reach out to me, and I can see it actually when the bot proceeds to reply to me when I've already replied to them, and it doesn't look good. Even I can see that the message is perfectly drafted and they're trying to lead me to the call or wherever they want me to lead to until they actually assign a person to respond to me. But you don't want to miss a high quality lead this way. So let me now switch to the slides again, and let's jump to the actual tools that you might be using. And don't throw your tomatoes at me, but the first one I want to present to you is Google Workplace. I know, it might be basic. That is an alternative domain, but many people just don't do that. It's basic, but many don't do that. And you should be remembering that you can affect your real corporate email address if you send those cold outreach email campaigns from your actual email address. So I wouldn't even recommend, so you can't even use your corporate domain when you send out those cold outreach campaigns. These are basics. You can get spammed, blocked, reported, Don't do that. Just buy yourself for $5 a paid domain, a paid Google Workspace, and send as many email campaigns as you like. Okay. So the next one is LinkedIn account and Sales Navigator. Again, that's basic. Don't worry, we'll jump on to the to other tools. But we've talked a lot about LinkedIn and Sales Navigator on this channel. I mean, I can't be talking enough about this because Sales Navigator is my favorite tool when it comes to selling. And when I feel that it's time for us, to boost our sales, the first thing I buy is I go and buy a premium account on LinkedIn. I typically don't use it for more than a couple of months. And then I just deal with the leads I've generated over the time. But if you want some systematic approach, that's what you want to invest into. And again, you should calculate your budget on a yearly basis. So, and I would recommend you using a LinkedIn account with no less than 500 plus connects. I wrote here connects. Okay, contacts on your LinkedIn page. Because you don't want to look as a brand new account. You've just registered to start sending cold emails. It won't look good. Obviously, people will think that you have just registered for the sake of spamming them. And even if you have, you don't have to show it off, right? And a Sales Navigator is required for lead generation according to your ideal customer profile, and the cost is around $80 per month, and it's totally worth it. It's the best sales tool I know so far. Okay, so the next one is Lambworm, and that is a booster that will help your emails land not in spam, but in the primary inbox. And it's like giving your emails and your domain the accountability. And the cost is $29 per month. You don't really have to buy that more expensive package. That's more than enough. So once you've got your lead base using Sales Navigator and maybe ZoomInfo. ZoomInfo is a little bit costly, but there are other ways, by the way, how you can scrape leads from LinkedIn. But once you start your cold outreach email campaigns, you definitely want your emails to land in their inboxes and not in their spams, right? And that is what Lambworm is for. The next tool is Snow.io, and that is used to transfer the gathered leads from Sales Navigator to CSV if you want to use some mail out automation system instead. And it also tracks the mail's open rate, which is also good. Many tools do that, all the tools do that. So it's nothing revolutionary, but just another alternative, and that is Snow.io. Now, the next tool I want to present you, and those of you who've done sales surely have heard about that, and that is Apollo. That is intelligent prospecting, synchronization, and data enrichment for CRM. The cost is $39 per month. It's more. It's $39 per month. I just started to doubt myself because I've been creating those slides in a rush, as you might have seen. So this really helps, and I recommend using it in pair with Crunchbase. So it really depends on which approach you take, but just know that there's such a great tool. Might be costly, but still great to use. So now, ClearOut. This is for email validations and verification service with 98% of accuracy. And that is what we've bespoken on that slide of mine, where I talked about clearing out data on step 2 when you put this data into CRM, right? The cost is $21 per 3,000 credits. Of course, it won't last you a lot, but then again, you can't be sending unlimited emails even from that bot email account of yours. For example, if you bought a Google Workspace and you're using this email to send campaigns, I wouldn't recommend you sending more than, say, 3,000 emails from that box in a couple of weeks, because again, Google may track you, so people do report you. So And if this is a not verified email account, again, there might be problems. So back in the days, a couple of years ago, whenever I used more than 3,000 per 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So you won't be needing more than, let me put it here, so more than, say, 5,000 credits per month, so I would say, for a company, say 50 plus employees. Okay, so the next tool is Lemlist, and that helps you to launch campaigns through LinkedIn plus using email. And the costs are $99 per month, which, again, with Sales Navigator, it pretty much makes sense to use this. And because there are more costly alternatives to that, and this is one of the, I would say, one of the cheapest option on the market as of yet. One of the things I just want you to warn about automation tools that you use on LinkedIn with Sales Navigator, because it doesn't make sense to use them without Sales Navigator, is that LinkedIn doesn't like those automation tools, and it does block the accounts that use automation tools from time to time. So either use some really good tools with good reputation, or be aware that you should be using some extra additional accounts to start your automated campaigns from. Okay, so using Sales Navigator is no issue. So you can send as many sorry, that is Upwork speaking in me, connection messages on Sales Navigator. But if you use some automation tools, LinkedIn doesn't like them, and from time to time, it still does block accounts. So just so that you know. So the next tool you might want to use, and again, don't throw tomatoes at me. I know it might sound like, Olga, we've all heard about Grammarly, and I know my writing is good, but I mean, what I've tried, I have a confession to make. I'm a writer. I have a side life of a fantasy writer, and I've always thought myself to be pretty much proficient with languages. But when I've tried Grammarly, it doesn't only correct your mistakes. It doesn't really correct your grammar, especially if your writing is really good and you're really sure about your writing skills. But the most value of Grammarly lies that it actually offers you better phrases. It uses those AI techniques to analyze your message and understand that this is actually a business email or a sales email. And it offers you alternatives how you can use a better phrase inside your message. So it doesn't really correct your mistakes. It offers you some better wording, how to put it better. And I was amazed, really, because I was so confident of myself, like, I don't need this tool. But when I've tried it, I was like, oh, yes, this sounds way better. This sounds basically, of course, naturally, I'm not a natural... No, you got me. Obviously, I'm not an English. My English is not my first language. So still, as much confidence I had, it still gave me so much better alternatives, and I loved using it. Okay, so the next one is Loom. Sorry, the next one is Loom, and that is for you to use personalized outreach campaigns with video. And if you have seen, let me take away my face from this one. And I've made a couple of really stupid screens from my videos, and you probably know that I use this tool for each and every of my screen recordings. And actually, if you use it for, it has a free option when you can record less than 5 minutes for free. So if you want to use Loom for, say, sending personalized sales messages to your clients, it won't take you more than 1 minute, so you can definitely use their free package, actually. Of course, if you want to record more than that, it takes you $13 per month. But you can be totally okay with the free package, saving you money here. Okay, so the next slide is Pipedrive. And why Pipedrive? Like I've already told you, there are multiple CRMs. A lot of CRMs you can choose on the market. But what I like about Pipedrive, you can see on the slide how really simple it is. It reminds Trello in a way, but it's really, really simple. You see different stages the lead is into, so different stages of a sales funnel, everything is here. And if you have never used any sales CRM before, I would strongly recommend you starting with Pipedrive, because if you move to more complicated sales CRMs, like say HubSpot or God forbid Salesforce, you will get lost. You will waste your money, burn your efforts, burn your motivation to even proceed your sales. So I would recommend you starting with something more simple, and Pipedrive works perfectly for IT companies. And I even know that it is being used in the companies 500 plus employees. And only now, those are partners of ours, they are switching to some other CRM. But it worked great. It is simple, but it's really great. And even for one of the CEOs who really wasn't into sales, he got it from day one. That is the one to start with. And the last slide I have for you is that there are a lot of other tools that you might be using. The one I've indicated, like Zapier, I think it's one of the best on the market, but it's really, really expensive, and not everybody can afford themselves to buy it. So if I have missed some of the tools that you use inside your companies, inside your business, let me know. Really, I want to know, because I'm planning to start some cold outreach campaigns in the fall. So your recommendations would be more than welcome. And while you're typing in your recommendations, hopefully, so the last slide I had to put in, let me remove my face, and that is on our Patreon. We have much more, like legal templates, NDAs, master service agreements, contractor agreements, some financial agreements, and also something like cyber insurance agreements. And we have master classes there, documents, and much, much more. So if you sign up, you will get an access to all of that at once. Just a kind reminder. So now let me address our chat. Okay, Harry says, no, long time no see. Yes, I'm sorry for that. I've neglected my YouTube channel for quite a while because so much is happening, and I think I will be recording a channel update in a month or so. And I will be telling you why there is so many delays in videos. And actually, I have a couple of recorded videos that I just can't get to editing to. So I'm sorry for that. Yes, I don't pop up on my own channel quite a lot. Okay. Alexandra says, very nice slide, don't worry. Well, that's the best I could do when I realized that I haven't included that into slides. What's the first tool you can use? Paint. You have 5 minutes left. I also got busy with my internship. Yes, life does get in the way. And in my case, I had to dedicate certain time to my business because I run an outsourcing and outstaffing company, and it does require time, even though I try to automate as much as possible and delegate as much as possible. And I'm not really, the most proactive CEO in the world. I'm very satisfied with the, gradual growth that we have. It still does require my attention, and so unfortunately, YouTube does get in the way. So guys, if you will be having any questions after our live stream, because obviously, of course, you may not remember that those questions you would like to ask me right now. So please throw them in the comment section after our today's live stream. I'm so thankful that you came and made this live stream actually alive. So thank you, Leonid, Harry, Alexandra. Thank you for coming and for sharing that you're here in the comments. And yes, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, and I'll see you hopefully next week, because maybe I will have the time to edit those pre-recorded videos of mine. So thank you again. You have a great weekend, and see you next week. Bye-bye.